where he says, I think it's called Adam's Rib. I think that's the one. I think so. Anyway, the lines are, for if it does not seem a moment's thought, then all the stitching and unstitching will have been for naught. That says it. So what you do is, you stitch, you unstitch, you work, and forget it.
It's paradoxical, almost paradoxical.
Almost. But it is, you don't get to the spiritual thing without lots of work. That's the point.
And some structure and discipline.
Exactly. Structure and discipline. People who sit on a mountain, wait for this thing to happen with no structure. See, that for me has nothing to do with spirituality. The real spirituality for me comes with a lot of hard work, and then it just comes somehow, if you're that kind of person. You just don't wait for it. You just don't go from one group to another group, spiritual group, to understand. No, it's not what it's about.
But then it's certainly not tied to any one organization,
No.
or club,
Or religion.
or composer.
Or composer. That's why I said, how can it's spirituality of Beethoven, spirituality of Schumann, spirituality of Chopin, spirituality of Brahms. I mean, you can go on.
Somewhere I read about, or you wrote about your participation in the global forum.
Yes.
Uh,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I have to make, and I didn't get this call, I'm going to...
When you discovered that manuscript, did I see you on Johnny Carson or Dick Cavett?
Dick Cavett.
Dick Cavett.
Dick Cavett, when I found the other
Quite a
two,
long time ago, yeah.
when I found the other two at Yale, same two, twice. I had the four of them on.
Doesn't it prove that the composer may have different ideas about the same subject?
Of course, there's your proof. He changed what you heard. I don't know if you ever heard me play them. Did you ever hear them before last time?
Well, on television that time and on the recording.
You heard one of them.
Yeah.
You heard the G flat.
Now the E flat,
E
I
flat.
hadn't heard that variant version.
Yeah. Well, you see there are differences. I mean, some of it's obviously more simplistic, but some of it, wonderful left hand and dum 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 dum. It's very beautiful. I prefer it to the other version.
Oh, you found them at Yale University.
Yeah, just accidentally.
How are accidents like?
I was talking about a master class, and they said, "You want?" I got there, which I gave, and they said, "You want to look at some of our old music?" I said, "Yeah." They showed me they have a fantastic collection, and before I just something made me point to something on a shelf. I said, "What's that?" I don't know what. And they said, "Oh, it seems to be Chopin." I said, "Oh, can I see it?" So they took it down. I was sitting down, I opened this folder, and I just nearly fell off the chair because I saw the same two waltzes, same two together. Why? And I saw quickly that there was a big difference in this. And I turned a page, and I saw 1832, which is a year before the ones I discovered in France. And then these men were looking, about 4 or 5 professors around me. They said, "You don't look well. What's the matter?" I said, "This is not possible." I said, "You don't understand. You don't understand." So they said, What? I said, never mind. I got to leave." So I left for New York. I really thought I was dreaming. I mean, I thought I was in some other place, one of those other places. And then I realized that no, I wasn't, that I, in fact, had seen them. And I went back the next day. I said, "Can I come back?" I looked at them carefully. I knew Chopin's hand by then, and it was definitely his hand. And, I was like that. And so I called Harold Schoenberg, who had written the front page story of the Times 5 years earlier, 6 years earlier. And he came over here, and he said, and I showed him this, and he said, "I'm not even going to show this to the editor. No, they simply won't believe it." I said, "You do what you like," but I felt obliged to tell you about this because, he said, "Well," and then there was a small thing in the Times, Janis finds two more Chopin. But around the country, it got quite a bit of play. And then I did the film for the French, which was shown here on PBS on Chopin. And, that's how it happened. I mean, they were both accidents. I had no intention. How do I look? I don't know. I don't look for waltz. I don't look for music anywhere. But what was interesting, you see, was when Schoenberg did his article. He said, "Now we have the only known autograph of the G-flat waltz. There is no autograph that exists," which was true at that time. Yale had another one and never said a word. And so I was the one to uncover it.
And the variant edition is maybe more difficult with the value.
The G flat is much more difficult.
I would think.
It's almost a mazurka. As you know, Chopin, mazurka was his dance, and so he kept alternating waltzes with mazurkas in the same piece. And this is very Polish in feeling, in my feeling, very rustic Polish. And the other one is very sort of Frenchified, frank. Salon, very elegant and very different. So, different change. But change is what it's all about, you know.
How can we, there's this, you know, as we approach the end of this century, there's this question of lineage. It's getting to be a longer and longer time. We have recordings and interviews and so forth, but how can you tap into that? It's, you know, we're in the United States of America, where the time of Chopin and the atmosphere is so far, getting farther and farther away, culturally and temporally. How do we? Just by doing what we're doing.
By doing what we're doing. By
the letter, reading the letters or the documents of the time.
Yes, not. Toscanini used to say, tradition is the last bad performance. So, tradition, you know, he has a very good point, because that doesn't come from the composer, the tradition, necessarily. It comes from other people, very often. The important thing is to get back to what the composer wrote. Letters, the most important. There are books where he talks about what Mozart talked about, the same kinds of things. He said the same things that Chopin said. People ask me how I can sing. Well, you see, I play the left hand pretty evenly, and I put the right hand notes in between. Rubato. Romantic composer.
18th century Rubato.
18th century, but it's rubato. The style is a different style at a different period. And you know, it's a different period, and even though he was a universal composer, Mozart, you see, I believe men write and live in their own, the great men live in their own times and in all time.
So that's transcendence again, isn't it?
Exactly.
Is it?
Exactly. That's what transcendent is.
Do we have to trust that there's something universal?
Yes.
Is that the right word?
Well, there is, don't you think?
Yeah.
Look at the universe. Look how many universes are born every day. Millions. Giving birth to universes every day.
Yeah.
Can you imagine what that is? It's endless. It's endless. So, if you don't believe in something there, if we think we're the only things in this endless universe, I think we have big problems.
Arrogance. Yeah.
It's arrogance. It's ego.
Has any of your composed music been recorded?
Yes.
Is it available?
Yeah, actually, yes. Now, I wrote another song called Bet Me, which has been recorded by George Shearing. And the words by George David Weiss on this one. And there's another instrumental recording that just came out, which didn't come out. It's just been recorded. It's going to be released within, I think, a few months. And then another vocal of that same song. Bet Me. One song from Hunchback has been recorded by K.T. Sullivan, who's a pretty well-known. She's been in a few shows, and she's also a very well-known cabaret singer. And she did something called Let Me Make Love to You, which is out of Hunchback. And Hunchback is, we hope, we're scheduled to, as I say, to open at that theater here in New York.
When is the opening?
Well, it's scheduled for April.
Of 98.
April 98, which will be right on top of my 70th birthday. And then next year's also the 50th anniversary of my New York debut.
Town Hall?
Carnegie. It was Carnegie.
Could I go back to one point? I didn't know that Heifetz was such an influence on you. How are there any particular ways that he, phrasing or?
You know, if I can say that, there was an elegance, and a nobility, and a aristocracy about his phrasing, which was very close to me somewhere. A subtlety, you know, and dignity. Yes, he was all of those things, you know, and it was very, very close to me. And he liked very much. I played for him at the time, and he really liked my playing a lot. We were supposed to have recorded together, and in their trios, politics intervened in the most unpleasant way. And it never happened, which really made me sad. And him too. And him too. But it was very unpleasant. And neither of us knew what had been done. But the most fun we had was one day, he said, you don't have to drink vodka all treat. I said, you want to bet? And I had Boris Shayapin, who was the best man at my wedding, a very close friend of mine, Boris was. And
The painter?
the painter, and the son of Fyodor, with a great voice he himself had. Boris had his father's unbelievable voice, really, and very amusing man. And so Boris drank a lot of vodka. And you know, at that time I was having some fun with that, just from time to time. We'd have this Russian, what they call zakuski, which are appetizers. See, I'm of a Russian, Polish background. My mother was Russian, my father was Polish. So, anyway, so when I said that, I said, try me, try me. So we went to dinner, we were out in California, went to dinner, and we started drinking vodka. And we got 14 shot glasses with food, of course. And he said, okay, I believe you, you can drink. And we went to the piano, and we started to play four hands. I want you to know that we were perfectly fine. Played really fine, everything was fine. My wife said, listen, don't you want me to drive down to the Beverly Hills? I said, no, I am fine. So I drove perfectly well down to the Beverly Hills Hotel, got upstairs to the room, and wham! I mean, the whole thing went to pieces. But but it was really interesting. Again, isn't it strange how the mind can wait until it has to stop? I mean, I got into the room before it just fell apart. It was fun. But, he loved playing games and things, and we had a lot of fun together. And music wasn't discussed a lot. It was played, or...
Joseph Gingold told me that his teacher was Vladimir Grafman.
Was it?
Joseph Gingold was
Yeah.
a student of Gary Grafman.
His father, yes.
And Vladimir Grafman was, I think, contemporary with Heifetz, more or less, from the class of Leopold Auer. And someone said, Grafman, what did Heifetz sound like when he was 10? And there was a long reflection, and he said, like Heifetz.
Yeah. But I lived, you see, with his parents for a while in New York. And Shoshanov lived on the downstairs in Brownstone, down first 2 or 3 floors, and Papa and Mama Heifetz lived on the top 2 floors.
I didn't know they lived
Yeah, in the same house. And then, Shotzi was, as I say, like my musical papa, at the age of 10. And I got, anyway, through that I met so many extraordinary people, not only in music, but in the world of theater, in the world of, the world of art, in that whole world of New Yorker.
Gershwin?
Gershwin was part of that group. I never met him, though. Gershwin was part of that group. It was a little bit before. I was a little bit before. But Pulitzer, S.N. Berman, God, let me think. I can't think of all the people, but Heifetz, of course, was there a lot. And in Connecticut, where they had a house, and I used to go there on the weekends. I mean, it was the most incredible environment for a young man, because I believe that all life is important. Music reflects everything in life. Just to keep it, just to go to concerts or just to practice, it's not going to develop an artist.
You talked about helping young people to become artists as well as pianists.
Very different. Artists and pianists are different things.
How do you define
the difference?
Describe the difference.
Well, a pianist is someone who plays the piano. An artist is how he plays the piano. I mean, you can play the piano like a typewriter, and still you can be a tremendous pianist and not be a good artist.
Rubinstein once said, when does the music begin? I heard him in an interview.
He said that, yeah. At the beginning, hopefully. But you must have the technique, you must develop technique in order to serve the music.
Did the Levines have you do any...
A lot. I do.
In other words, the work that leads us into the transcendent, but there is this sort of, and your talents will shape how much you have to do, I suppose. But did you have to through the regimen of 18?
Oh, sure I did. I did scales. They work with me very hard on technical. Oh, yes. And unfortunately today they think there are shortcuts, and there aren't. Those things are like, have got to be done. Rachmaninoff was working all his life on Hanon. Even when he was playing, he worked Hanon to keep the fingers, to keep the technique in condition. Young people don't think they work on it in pieces. Yes, you can do that, but technical work, it's like doing calisthenics every day. You got to do it.
Chopin etudes?
Wonderful. Bach, Perez and Fugues. Marvelous. And Clementi Gradus ad Parnassum, which is partly forgotten now, was the major thing that people were working on. Actually, I did as a child.
You did that?
Yeah. Yes.
You know, there's this beautiful quote, and I think it's from your mother, or you attribute it to your mother, about the shoemaker.
Yes, it's true.
It grabbed me because I believe it to be true, and yet we do have gifted people, pictures on the piano, yourself, we have these extraordinary gifts, and yet somehow, again, paradoxically, you have the belief that everyone's equal in some other way. Or
I believe that anyone who does whatever he does, shoemaker, I don't care what, plumber, take it to the most, I once had a big argument with a chef. He said, I'm not an artist. I said, yes, you are an artist. Because he said, no, you're an artist, but I'm not an artist. This was a top chef at Le Cirque years ago. And then I kept arguing with him, and he said, it's strange, but you know what we call the grill in France, where you grill things, you put the food, whatever it is. He said, le piano. I said, there you are. So I said, yes, maybe you're right, maybe you're right. So my point is that anything done exceptionally well in a way that by a person who has a passion for what he's doing and has a talent for what he's doing and loves what he's doing and really does it well is a great artist. And I respect him no matter what he is.